This is augforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV, NFC terminals for counter sale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and AcuPOS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all of their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is 24/7 Digitize. 24/7 Digitize is an Acumatica bookkeeping service provider that helps derive the best value from your Acumatica investment by maintaining your books utilizing Acumatica's best practices and guidelines. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. Guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, and this is episode number 103. Kurt Keating, Acumatica System Administrator at MiiR. And Kurt, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, Tim, thanks for having me.
Hey, so sometimes we get people on here and we like going through the full implementation story. But I think today, even though my title is System Administrator at MiiR, we were going to talk actually about, and maybe I'll change the official title when I get around to publishing this. But I think we were going to talk about the Seattle user group. I don't remember the official name, but before we do, though, maybe you could give us just a little background on yourself and what you do at MiiR.
Absolutely. So MiiR, drinkware company based out of Seattle that really has a strong ethos around supporting the planet and doing 1% for the planet, as well as a few other we'll call them, I guess, certifications. We're certified B Corp. We try to do the climate neutral certification and the certified evergreen. So, we design all of our own products in-house and really just here to, kind of advance like the coffee space, the beer and wine space. And I came to MiiR back in April. So in terms of our conversation about the implementation, that would never happen because I wasn't actually here when they implemented.
Well, that works out then.
Yeah. They've been on Acumatica for about 4 years. And actually, we have a really good relationship with Acumatica at the corporate level. Our CEO and founder has actually been a big advocate for Acumatica as well. So you'll probably see his face plastered on billboards and advertisements across the web and other places. So they really brought me in, number one, because of my background. Actually, at our Seattle Acumatica users group meeting, I'm actually going to steal a comment from one of the other Acumatica guys who commented that he was a recovering SAP consultant, and I guess I'm a recovering Oracle consultant. So I cut my teeth on Oracle 10.7 character all the way through 12i for a bunch of companies. I worked with KPMG Consulting, so I was in the Oracle manufacturing space for quite a few years, obviously doing implementations. And then when I came out to Seattle about 20 years ago, continued on that vein, but also dove into the data warehousing part of it, because I kind of always felt like if every implementation started with the reporting paradigm, like what you wanted to get out of it, I think implementations would be way easier. And so I really kind of focused on reporting, data warehousing, and went to work for Slalom Consulting for a while. And they had an Oracle practice and an ERP practice and kind of phased that out. So I actually adopted the Microsoft technology and really spent a lot of time in the SQL Server stack as well. Took about 5 or 6 years off from corporate America, tried to do the entrepreneurial thing, and ended up coming back to corporate America last year, and that's or this year, I should say, with MiiR. And so they really wanted somebody with a lot of that experience to kind of help them take Acumatica from where it is, which, they've implemented it, they're doing well in terms of operating, but they're a very young company, I guess. Overall, they're about 10 years old, and they're looking at adding a ton of functionality with the system and growing. Right? I mean, we're probably a $50 million company. We're looking to expand that, and in that growth, I think they're looking for a lot more competency around how systems should perform at that level, and with the growth and implementing better processes overall. And then obviously having the system do what it does efficiently and effectively, instead of trying to duct tape and band-aid things together, as I think a lot of people do. So yeah, I'm still figuring out a lot of things, not only from a MiiR standpoint on how they do business and how they operate in Acumatica, but I'm also figuring out a lot about Acumatica because it's relatively new for me as well. But coming from the Oracle world and looking at Acumatica, Acumatica being super flexible, not as rigid as Oracle was. It's to me, it's the right tool for where we are in MiiR's life cycle and maturity. So, that being said, when I came on board, one of the things I noticed was, if you were to go out and search for Oracle blogs, you'd hit 100,000 of them with a rock, and kind of when I started searching for Acumatica blogs, I found yours and maybe the Acumatica forum. And so I really felt like there was like this absence of community in a way that Oracle has. And again, that's a function of just Oracle being around for decades and decades. So I reached out to a couple different groups and said, hey, it'd be great to get a users group together so that we can, at least other companies that are local, that are using Acumatica, let's all get together and, see where there's some opportunities. So I reached out to Kim Plank at Acumatica, who's director of marketing. I guess she's got kind of a new role now, but still customer focused, marketing focused. And Patricia Bennett at PC Bennett, which is a VAR, coincidentally one of our old VARs. We actually work with Crestwood Associates now. And basically, I guess they had already done Seattle, I should say a Pacific Northwest users group a few years ago, right before the pandemic. Sounded like it was a really big event, probably 60 plus people, maybe 60 to 100 in that range. And then obviously back in September, coming out of the pandemic, we were like, okay, let's do a small local one, just see what the turnout would be. And that's kind of really what it was. It was really informal. There wasn't necessarily the user group aspect where we had breakout sessions and we were going to learn a bunch of stuff. I think it was really just getting our feet under us, understanding what the local community looked like in terms of Acumatica, and then moving on from there. So we had a lot of discussions in that meeting about what the next session looks like. Obviously, with the summit coming in a couple months, we kind of put any future quarterly get together on hold. So we're probably going to be looking at the end of Q1 next year, early Q2 to do another one. And I do think it's going to be a lot bigger. I think we are going to try to expand the reach. Because right before the pandemic, I mean, they had folks come down from Vancouver, BC, people come all the way up from Oregon. So I think that's the intent with the next group, the next user group that we have. And the intent would be to have a lot more focus on maybe some of those breakout sessions, maybe some of the industry specific topics that we can broach. So MiiR is an e-commerce company. We had about 20 people at our Seattle user group that included both, MiiR VARs and the customers and potential customers, actually, which was really great to see. We had a group here local in Seattle that's been evaluating Acumatica, I guess, for quite a long time, about 7 or 8 months. And they've been doing a lot of custom development. The representative that they sent, don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's a C# developer, so he's actually been trying to figure out whether Acumatica will work with a lot of the customizations and a lot of development that they have already in-house. So it's great to have him there. PC Bennett, obviously, again, one of the VARs. They did actually have a piece of content that they wanted to deliver for the session. So we all kind of pulled into a meeting room and they were kind of able to show us how to basically extend or customize forms without doing a full-on kind of C# development. So ways that you can add fields to forms, which I thought was super valuable for me being relatively new to Acumatica. Again, part of that flexibility of Acumatica that you'd never see in an Oracle product, right? I mean, Oracle's obviously very staunch and stoic on what you can do in their applications without like a full-blown development or their database structure is pretty rigid. So it was really nice to see some of that flexibility with Acumatica. So yeah, great session overall. I think I might have sent you a link to some of the pictures that we had from the
Yeah, I'll
event.
put a link to that on this podcast episode page.
Yeah, great. So you can see the little the drinkware, the 10-ounce highball that we custom laser etched just for this event. So yeah, overall it was a relatively short session, but it was great to see. There was probably there were 2 VARs there. Well, actually, sorry, 3 VARs and probably 5 or 6 companies represented. One being a customer and one being a non-customer and the rest being customers. So yeah, again, real quick session. It was kind of the spawn, more of a post-pandemic social hour. Let's get our feet under
Oh, that
us.
was it. It was just like a 1-hour lunch kind of a thing, or?
It was about 2 hours, kind of just
Okay.
kind of happy hour snacks and that sort of thing, to really
Okay.
get together and meet the players, mainly probably selfishly for me, being new to Acumatica and to MiiR, and just really trying to figure out who's who locally in the Seattle area. So definitely looking to expand that to the Northwest, and sounds like there's a big community out there that we can really pull in.
Can I ask where you met? Because I think the biggest challenges, one is having some kind of food, getting that paid for, and the biggest one I think is where do you meet? I mean, just starting off with an hour or two is perfect. I love that format, but where'd you gather?
Yeah, we actually have a new corporate office in Fremont neighborhood out in Seattle. And because we knew it was going to be about 20 to 40 people, our office provided for that. Speaking with Kim at Acumatica and Patricia Bennett from PC Bennett, it sounds like the pre-pandemic meeting that occurred, they actually rented conference room, I believe, at the Hyatt or the Radisson out in Bellevue, which is across the water from Seattle. And talking with Kim from Acumatica, it sounded like she has a budget for that type of scenario. Not sure what that looks like regionally, but obviously her being in Kirkland, which is pretty close to Seattle and Bellevue, there's an opportunity for us to leverage that. So it does sound like next time, and we sprung for the food because it was at our place and it was our event. But it does sound like going forward that Kim may have that ability to, to allocate some budget.
That's cool. I love hearing like a customer hosted event. I'm always a big fan of independent events just because they tend to be more transparent. If it's put on by Acumatica, it's great they have the budget, but it just tends, in my experience, to become more like marketing and, just putting your best foot forward. But I love the kind of more informal type of thing that you did. Um, but yeah, both have benefits, and you're definitely in a good location, being right next to Acumatica's headquarters, to be able to tap into some budget.
Yeah, and honestly, our their location out in Kirkland was going to be our fallback if our office wasn't open, because technically our office actually wasn't even open to our company yet before when we hosted the event, because they were still. The morning we walked in, man, there's construction guys all over the place. I mean, there was boxes, and they did a really good job of cleaning up for us by the end of the day, so that we could host the event. But yeah, no, Acumatica offered their pavilion area out in Kirkland for that. So yeah, no, we are fortunate there, and I thought that was another great reason for us to get in tune. Kim was going to bring the COO of Acumatica. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. But he ended up having a conflict. But again, it's that opportunity, being so close to those guys out in Kirkland, that wanted to try to leverage. And obviously, from my selfish perspective, again, wanting to really find out who's local here in the Seattle area that's kind of in the same space that we are in, so that we have a little bit of that open window. Into finding resources or just kind of troubleshooting best practices. And I'll tell you the other thing that's been really beneficial since I came on, I think like day 2 when I joined MiiR, we had one of the Commerce Activity Board breakout sessions that Acumatica hosts. So basically all of the folks in the retail commerce or the e-commerce area, we have a quarterly meeting, virtual meeting, and that's been super helpful. We've had 2 so far. And it's really great because we get to kind of focus in on some of the issues that are really specific to our business, MiiR's business, in the e-commerce business. So that's been super helpful too. And it, we talk with Josh Fisher, which is like frontline, development. We've had Karthik on some of the discussions too, which has been fantastic, that I have the ability to talk to, the guys that are developing Acumatica updates and releases. So that's been, you wouldn't normally get that in one of the big tier 1, ERP systems, right? You wouldn't have that type of exposure. So it'd have to go up multiple levels before things kind of get there. So it's been really interesting and really fun. And we're a really young, small, dynamic company. So things are going to continue to grow and move quickly. Which is what I really like about it. There's always like 8 or 9 things going on at the same time. And even though like you probably think of a system administrator as kind of a daily boring job where I'm just making sure people don't get locked out with password, lockouts, it's really different for me because of my background as a consultant and an ERP implementation specialist. I kind of wear multiple hats here. I'm also kind of taking over responsibility of the data warehouse and the data integrity that's flowing through there, and implementing a few data integrity projects right now to make sure that Acumatica, the processes and the data that goes into that is efficient enough to get us and accurate enough to get us and comprehensive to get us the right reporting that we need out of the data warehouse. So I'm involved in a bunch of projects that take me away from my day-to-day responsibilities and kind of keep the fire burning, so I don't get bored of resetting passwords and making sure all of our commerce connector syncing is working correctly.
Yeah, it sounds like you're more of like an internal consultant than a system administrator. And I love how you said that there was some construction going on where you met the day of, because I still would love to hear a story about a user group gathering in a warehouse. I don't know, for some reason I kind of have this image of the TV show The Office, like where they go back out into the warehouse and that's where all like the interesting stuff happens. And I think it'd be really cool if because you can hold more people in a warehouse, and as long as it's heated. Sometimes there's just something about that atmosphere that just brings out different conversations. You roll up your sleeves more, and rather than the formal conference room type of meeting. So I love that you sort of I sort of have this image of construction workers, moving stuff around just to give you space to meet. I love that kind of atmosphere, like a garage type of atmosphere.
Yeah, and if you kind of look at some of the pictures on that link, you'll see, I mean, the ceilings are still pretty much exposed. You can kind of see the conduit running through it. Some of the conference rooms and things are all situated. The kitchen is situated, but there's still that feeling of kind of a raw space there. And we do have a warehouse up in Marysville, about 45,000 square feet. So there's definitely an opportunity to, definitely don't want to do it during the winter because it's not heated, but yeah, there's definitely an opportunity to do that if the Acumatica budget doesn't come through for hosting at a hotel or a conference center.
And so, did you actually nail down an official date for the next one, or just sometime after Summit was the idea?
Yeah, I think we were going to resurface the conversation after Summit. We did talk about doing it maybe at the end of February, but it does seem like it's been pretty quiet in the house since our event in September. So I really feel like they've been focused on the summit. And actually, speaking of that, we just got a request to be part of the industry leaders designation, which is, I guess, a new thing that Acumatica is doing, where they're looking for obviously advocates from various companies that would be willing to sit on a panel and provide additional collateral. And I think Kim's putting that together. So we're signing up for that because obviously we're very entrenched with Acumatica, and it will be our solution for the foreseeable future as our ERP. So we want to make sure that we really enable our ability to kind of cash in on that, right? That relationship with Acumatica. So I think we'll probably be looking at end of Q1 for the next kind of regional user group event.
For people who want to find out more about your user group there in Seattle, is there a landing page or anything yet, or who do they email?
Yeah, there is. So Acumatica created, I still believe it's called the Seattle Acumatica Users Group. I can send you that link when we get off, but it is hosted on the Acumatica site. Obviously, we did talk about changing the name when we had our session because we want it to be more than Seattle. So I think we might be, it might change names in the future, but hopefully the link will be pretty static, and just the title of the page can change so that we can be more inclusive for the Pacific Northwest.
And did you do any type of official nonprofit organization to pull this off, or did you just say, "Hey, people show up and just keep it informal"?
Yeah, it was totally informal. Just really wanted to get, like I said, that local Acumatica competency, boots on the ground and in the same room, just to see who's who in the zoo.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad you did it. I think the first one's the hardest, and now it's just about rinse and repeat for make it a little bit better for next time. So tap into that Acumatica budget. You're in a great spot for that. And
Absolutely.
thanks for coming on to tell us about it.
Absolutely. Hopefully, will we see you at the summit this year?
Most likely. I haven't fully committed, but most likely. Yeah, you're gonna be there, Las Vegas.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, on the panel. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, cool. Awesome. Hey, thanks for taking the time. Any other parting thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, not at all. Just obviously, thank you for what you do. It's been helpful for me to be able to find information about Acumatica. I think there's really only been a few sources for that, so I think it's really all about that community and getting um, more knowledge share out there.
Well, and thank you for coming down from high and mighty Oracle and slumming it here in the mid market with the rest of us. We get to have more fun. Maybe we don't have the, I don't know what it is, the gleam of the Oracle consultant, but I think we have more fun in this area.
Yeah, we do, and I can tell you, we went through an upgrade back in late summer. I think it was end of July, early August, and never in my life have I been able to get through an upgrade in under 6 to 9 months. And this one was done in 3.5 weeks, and that totally blew my mind. And I kept waiting for things to break because it just felt so quick and so light. And yeah, we upgraded to 22R1, and really, man, no hiccups along that path. And our VAR was pretty supportive during that whole process. So yeah, really enjoyed that versus some of the experiences I've had in the past.
And like you said, less time resetting passwords and all that other overhead.
Oh yeah, man, and the environment managing. I mean, dev test prod, like all of that stuff. I mean, all just wiping that from my memory is going to be a welcome vacation.
All right, Kurt. Well, hey, thanks again for taking the time, and take care.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Cheers.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of AUGforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.